I would now like to call upon Connor McDermid, Landon Knight, and Brennan Bass to introduce our next speaker.
So my brother Paden, he's always been great at everything he's done. He's always been a great leader. He's grown into just a great man, and I just love him so much, and I'm proud of him.
For most of you that know Paden, you know that he is super competitive, and I don't mean just like regular competitive. I mean like extremely competitive, whether it be in school, sports, or just like a simple, fun game of chess. He tends to be like the most competitive person that it kind of angers me. But with being competitive, you know that he has a really big heart. And seeing Paden go throughout this year, it's been an excellent just thing to see for him to grow.
Yeah, so last year, during our state officer year, my team got the opportunity to actually meet Paden, and we got to see him throughout this past year as a state officer just grow and touch the lives of so many people. And to go kind of off what Brennan said, and when it comes to Paden's competitiveness, a couple weeks ago, we went to a friend's house to go branding. And as we were there, me and Brennan, who people called Timon and Pumbaa, weren't the best when it came to branding. And Paden really caught on fast, seeing as he is one of the most competitive people we've ever met. They called him Simba. And again, we were Timon and Pumbaa, so you can see how that works. But during the branding, actually, it was a funny story. He picked up this steer that got away. He just picked it up over the top of his head, and everybody in the entire, that was helping out just looked at him like he was Simba. And it was one of the craziest things we've ever seen, but I think that really connects back to his state officer year, seeing how he lifted people up all year and showed them the love and passion that he has for this organization, and not only for the New Mexico FFA Association, but for everybody that he comes into contact with. And for the three of us, it's one of the most amazing things we've had the opportunity to see him have. So we are very proud to introduce to you my brother,
And my brother,
Paden McDermid.
I hope so. I have to write my retiring address. Holy Mo Convention is in a month, and I don't have anything ready. I have to make sure everything sounds the right way, it has to be done the right way, I have to say everything in the right order, tell the right stories, and then I will get all that done, and then I'll give my address at State Convention, and then I'll be done. Holy moly, I'll be done with my state officer year. Super bittersweet, but as soon as I get done, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go buy myself a huge, ice-cold Dr. Pepper. And then I'm going to grab my fishing pole, and I'm going to go fishing. I'm not going to be worried about any new applications or any new paperwork I have to turn in. I'm just going to go fishing. This was basically my only thought I had while writing my retiring address. I wasn't worried about anything else, just writing my retiring address. But while not writing my retiring address, I realized something. I realized I have a lot of unintended freedom with this speech. So with that being said, let's go ahead and break the rules right out of the gate. Let's talk about kissing at FFA events. Now, before I get booed off stage or ostracized from New Mexico FFA forever, let me clarify. Whenever I say kissing, I mean what Mr. P used to tell us before every judging competition. Kiss. Keep it simple, silly. Mr. P used to tell this to me, Danica, Marielle, and Haley Prather before every dairy judging competition. And I'm not trying to point fingers, but I would possibly say this was not meant for me. I think this was maybe meant for Marielle, because Marielle has this unnatural ability to, one, beat me at every dairy judging competition we went to. That kind of angered me. But two, to make things 10 times more complicated than I ever thought possible. Or maybe this was for Danica. Now, Danica had a problem with this because Danica is a literal genius. You see, Danica knows everything about everything, and that's not sarcastic. Every aspect of every concept, and overall, she's super smart. And you can see how that might combat with simplicity. Now, I know I said Haley Prather, but I actually know this wasn't for Haley either. You see, Haley was the only one of us four who actually knew what was going on 100% of the time. But with that being said, I knew this wasn't for me. I knew this because no matter how hard the dairy test was, how complicated the sire selection was, or how blatantly lost I was during the herd record, I was always focused on something else. Whether that was what my friends were doing outside of the contest, what we were going to do on the way home, if we were going to stop at White Sands, if we were going to eat for dinner, who we played in basketball the next week, all of these things running through my head, making sure I kissed during the dairy contest. And I always made sure to keep it simple. But for some weird reason, whenever I was sitting down writing my retiring address, this idea of simplicity and keeping it simple completely escaped me. I completely forgot what Mr. P told me, and if you know anything about me, I like things to be perfect. Now, what I would do will not be turned in on time, it won't be submitted the right way, it won't look right, it won't sound right to other people, but to me, certain things must be perfect. And if they're not, I take what I'm working on, I crumble it in a ball, I throw it away, and I start over at square one. And that is exactly what happened to me writing this retiring address. You see, I wrote 8 different copies of a retiring address. That is 8 7 to 10 minute speeches for nothing. The first one that I wrote, I sat down in my dorm room. I looked up at this map I have hanging in my dorm, and I was really inspired, and so I got to work. I started writing out my speech, and as I got done, I read my speech. I picked it up, and I read it, and I realized I had just given a 4-minute geography lesson on why Alaska and Russia were so close, and connected that to changing the world. I don't really know how we got there, but the next one, I scrapped the idea of a map, and I went for the idea of a plane instead. I mean, we all like to travel, right? So this one, I started off with an impersonation. Oh, attention, this is your captain speaking. Please direct all attention to the front of the cabin, and you kind of understand why I scrapped that as well. The next 6 were minor changes. I changed my stories, my verbiage, the titles, little things here and there. I fixed my grammar, all these things to try to make it perfect. None of these worked until I got down to the one. Now, I'm not saying this speech was great, but I'm saying that Martin Luther King himself might have shed a tear. Or at least I thought. So I took this speech to the state officer training we had in Albuquerque. We all sat around and told each other our retiring addresses, and as I finished up my finishing line, my team told me, Paden, this is a good speech. And I started thinking, no, I'm on to something. This speech might just be revolutionary. I'm changing some lives today. So I rushed home as fast as my little Jeep could take me, and I got home, and I got down, and I started memorizing my retiring address. And I read over it, and then I very quickly realized something. I realized this speech was good. It was the kind of good where you're in 3rd grade, and you bring home a macaroni necklace to your mom, and she looks you right in the eye, and she says, Peyton, this is the greatest macaroni necklace I've ever had. Or where your little 8-year-old self draws a picture and your mom pins it on the fridge proudly and you just feel like a champ. But as you get older, you very quickly realize that this macaroni necklace would have been much better in actual macaroni, and the picture now pinned on the fridge was only used to cover up a dent you and your brother caused the week before. So there went another retiring address. I'm back at square one with nothing to do. All of those handcrafted, hand-selected, hand-picked words, gone. All of those masterfully crafted sentences, for nothing. All of that hard work and dedication, for nothing. All of the ink that I stole from my college roommate, sorry about that, Tyler, for nothing. I was back at square one. I couldn't remember what I needed to do with my speech, and so I just started. I started writing this speech out, and then I remembered. Keep it simple. But before I got to this point of keeping it simple, I'm not going to lie, I had a small meltdown. My mind started racing. Paden, you don't have a retiring address. You don't have anything to do at convention. And if you don't have anything to do at convention, then you're not a good state officer. And if you're not a good state officer, you're actually just being nice to yourself, and you're actually the worst state officer to ever walk across this New Mexico FFA stage. And if you're the worst state officer to ever walk across the New Mexico FFA stage, that means you're probably not good at much else. And if you're not good at much else, you won't ever have a job. And if you don't ever have a job, you won't ever have money. And if you don't ever have money, you won't ever have a house. And if you don't have house, money, or a job, you won't have food. And if you don't have food, you're going to have to steal macaroni necklaces from little 3rd graders at Texaco Elementary School. Wow. My mind was racing. And then Mr. P popped back in the back of my head. Paden, keep it simple. I need to focus on simplicity rather than trying to be impressive. I need to get back to the basics. And so naturally, I turned to the oldest, the simplest, and the truest edition of the FFA. I turned to country music. Now, these lessons of country music I learned while driving my radioless, air conditioningless, super hot, super squeaky, not quite aligned right, overall amazing, awesome Jeep Scout. Now, Scout always gets me where we're going. We won't get there smoothly, we won't get there comfortably, and we definitely won't get there on time, but we always get where we're going. Now, with Scout's dependability and this year of state office, I learned when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to walk away and run, and I decided before I fold up my FFA jacket for good, I'd share these lessons with y'all. Number 1, I couldn't remember the exact lyric, but it went something like this. If it can't make you mad, make you laugh, or make you cry, and it's just a waste of time. Now, I think these are great lyrics. There's something we should all hold true to in our lives. I think there's something more. If it can't make you smile, make you wonder, make you miss a time gone by, or make you want something that you never knew you wanted, and it's just a waste of time. Guys, these are the times that our lives are made on. The times that give you butterflies. The time where you don't think you can push yourself any farther, but you do, and you achieve your goal. Life's about the moments where you're so happy and proud of yourself or proud of somebody else, where you just can't help but smile, and you're filled with happiness. But life's also about the times where you're sad, where you don't know what you're going to do, and you just can't help but cry. Because at some point in your life, you're going to look back at everything that you've done, and you're not going to remember the miscellaneous jobs you had. You're not going to remember your homework. You're not even going to remember this speech, if we're going to be honest. But you're going to remember the times in your life that shaped you into you. The moments that reached in and made you who you became. New Mexico FFA, it's time that we live our life to the fullest of our emotions, and we live our life the way it's supposed to be lived, in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. Number 2, that's something to be proud of. That's a life you can hang your hat on. That's a chin held high as the tears fall down. That's a gut sucked in and a chest stuck out. I look at this one a little different than I look at the last. I look at this one and I say what I want my life to be. I want to be able to say, I am proud of my life. I don't want to say things or do things that would tarnish people's view of me or my view of myself. We have to make sure everything we do is done right and for the right reasons so we can be proud of our life. We live this life for ourselves, but we also live this life for our Father above. We've given our first name for ourselves, but we're given the legacy of our last name, and we must live that legacy proud. New Mexico FFA, it is time that we do right, and we live our life proudly for ourselves, for that legacy, and for our Father above. Number 3, I'm going to hold who needs holding. I'm going to mend what needs mending. I'm going to walk what needs walking, though it means an extra mile. I'm going to pray what needs praying, and I'm going to say what needs saying, because we're only here for a little while. I'm going to do what needs to be done. When times get tough and roads get rough, I'm going to strap in, and I'm going to be there for someone. Because we live in this world where pain and suffering run rampant. And every single one of us love to sit back and complain about it. Every single one of us love to watch the news and say, I don't like that. I don't think he should be there. I don't think she should be there. They aren't doing right here. That's an awful natural disaster that happened. But that's what we do. We sit back and complain. None of us like to change what needs to be changed. New Mexico FFA, it is time that we get up off that couch and we do what needs to be done. And it's time that we change what needs to be changed. At the beginning of this speech, I mentioned I wrote a lot of speeches before this one. And let me tell you, it was a lot of work. But in all of these speeches, I had one common theme. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to tackle every heartache and every misstep of man and combat it in one 10-minute speech until I wrote this one. And in this one, I realized something. I realized I and you don't need to change the whole world, that we just need to change somebody's world. These 3 lessons that I've shared with you today, there's something that I've tried to hold true to this year. There's something that I think have helped me grow this year and something that I'll try to continue to live through my life. But if we're going to be honest, these 3 lessons won't make you the best you that you can be. These 3 lessons won't have an impact in your life. These 3 lessons won't make a difference in what you're doing. These 3 lessons have no worth and no power on their own because these 3 lessons are just that. They're words. The difference starts coming whenever you want to make a difference. Whenever you want to make something happen, whenever you want to live your life to the fullest, and whenever you want to make something change. You have to make that decision to invest in somebody's life, and you have to want to change somebody's world. It's as simple as this. It boils down to you. Nobody can make you say or do anything you don't want to do. You have to make that decision. As I get into my Jeep Scout, as I grab my Dr. Pepper, I grab my fishing pole and I get ready to go fishing, I want to leave you with this. New Mexico FFA, keep it simple. Live your life to the fullest and live your life proud. Do what needs to be done. Be true to yourself and do what's right. Remember to not get caught up in the meaningless distractions of this world. Remember to just keep it simple.
see what I mean. There's a mountain top that I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. We're south of the equator, navigator. Gotta hit the road, gotta hit the road. Deep sea diving round the clock, bikini bottoms, lager tops. I could get used to this. Time flies by in the yellow and green. Stick around and you'll see what I mean. There's a mountain top that I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone. We got two in the front, two in the back, sailing along, and we don't look back.
Mrs. McDermid. One time he told me that he drives around Texaco late at night with the stars out, and he likes to turn the headlights off on his vehicle.
I did that.
And so, Paden, here's to you and all those starry nights in Scout, all those killer jokes you make, the way you can keep a secret like no one else, and the competitive spirit that keeps all of us on our toes. We hope you get that ice-cold Dr. Pepper, buddy. Love, Annalisa, Briley, Lyle, Cable, Sydney, Denny, and Megan. New Mexico FFA, your District 4 President, State Vice President, Paden McDermid.